with all of this in mind, Democrats look at the Supreme Court pick and they see the possibility of breaking institutions. Woodrow Wilson wanted to completely overthrow the constitutional structure by creating an executive government, millions of people strong, in order to effectuate the wishes of the big man on top. FDR in the 30s wanted to pack the court to make the court just another tool in his arsenal against many constitutional principles. LBJ ran roughshod over many principles of the Constitution in terms of private versus public in order to effectuate what he wanted. Barack Obama declared the government is us. Okay, this is a long stand. This is nothing new. It's just that the Democrats have now decided that they can come out openly and basically suggest that it's time to break all of America's institutions in pursuit of a pure majoritarianism. See, Democrats have believed for a while now, really since the election of Barack Obama, that they have a majority in the country, and therefore all obstacles should go away. It used to be that Democrats worried deeply about tyranny of the majority, right? The founders worried about tyranny of the majority. That is one of the reasons you have checks and balances and federalism. What they did not want, what they were afraid of, was what they called mob rule. What they meant by mob rule was not mobs running around burning things. What they meant was 51% of the population ruling with an iron hand over 49% of the population. Because at a certain point, the 49% are going to go, you know what, we're out. We are not interested in engaging in this particular deal when we are constantly being victimized by the 51% of the population who violate our rights. And so the founders were deeply worried about majoritarian tyranny. Now, Democrats used to worry about this too, because Democrats in many areas were not actually the majority. Right? They were worried about they loved the filibuster when George W. Bush was president and you had a Democratic minority. They still love the filibuster right now, even while declaring it a Jim Crow relic. Twice in the last 6 months, they've used the filibuster, a Jim Crow relic, according to Barack Obama, in order to stymie COVID relief and police reform. So they're worried about majoritarian tyranny when they are in the minority. And when they're in the majority, they cannot wait to effectuate majoritarian tyranny because they have no institutional allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and its structures. And so for them, they believe they're in the majority. This, by the way, undergirds a lot of their take on 2016. After 2008, and Barack Obama wins the sweeping victory, and then 2012, Obama governs pretty radically from 2009 to 2012. And Democrats figure, okay, we might be in trouble here. And then Obama wins a fairly broad victory over Mitt Romney. Despite all of that, Democrats figured we're never losing again. We are the true majority. And then when Trump won, they couldn't handle it because their forever majority was not there. And so they pointed to the popular vote. They said, okay, well, we do have a majority. And so you started hearing rumblings about getting rid of the Electoral College, which they had loved up until that very moment. You started hearing rumblings about, let's reconstitute the United States Senate. And you heard rumblings about, let's pack the court. All of this preceded the Supreme Court pick. In open debate, Democrats were talking about the undemocratic nature of the American Senate. They were talking about the evils of the Electoral College. They were talking openly about packing the court 6 months ago, before any of this happened. Right, so when they believe they are in the majority, they are very much in favor of majoritarian tyranny. And they can't handle the fact that sometimes they're not in the majority. Now, everybody should be afraid, right, left, or center, of majoritarian tyranny. We've seen it too many times in American history. The story of Jim Crow is a story of majoritarian tyranny, where 51% of the population is literally depriving Black Americans of their rights under the Constitution of the United States. Right, that is majoritarian tyranny. American government, for all of its failings, was designed to prevent this sort of stuff. Okay, but because Democrats now believe that they are in the majority, they want majoritarian tyranny and they want it bad. And so the media, who have allegiance to this idea, they say it's time to wreck all the institutions. The institutions got to go. Here is just a mashup of a bunch of members of the media encouraging the Democrats to break all the institutions in American life.
The only way that we restore fairness is for Congress to pass an act expanding the court.
Do you say Democrats, if they get back the Senate in this election in November, should then move to expand the Supreme Court?
Are you in favor of trying to expand the numbers of justices on the Supreme Court?
Like the idea of eliminating the filibuster. Should they do that?
As you know, some Democrats are openly threatening to try to pack the Supreme Court with additional justices. Would you agree with that?
Potentially changing the number of justices on the court, changing the filibuster, changing the number of states in the union.
Okay, so the media have been pushing this extremely, extremely hard. Harder than many of the Democrats. Some Democrats still have some sort of institutional allegiance. Like Dianne Feinstein came out yesterday and she said, I don't really want to get rid of the filibuster. I think it's important. She got reamed. Members of the media were enraged by the fact that Dianne Feinstein, who's, I believe, 80 years old and senator from California out here, she said she didn't want to get rid of the filibuster. Democrats were absolutely enraged. Don Lemon demonstrating his own lack of knowledge about anything basic to the Constitution. I mean, you know that you're really, really dumb about American politics when Chris Cuomo, an actual block of wood, with fewer than 3 brain cells to rub together is looking at you like, dude, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So here was Don Lemon last night suggesting it was time for the Electoral College to be scrapped via a non-constitutional amendment, which would in fact be required. Also suggesting it's time to burn down all the institutions. And Chris Cuomo's like, dude, what are you talking about? When you're too radical for Chris Cuomo, by the way, this is a news show, according to Brian Stelter, a reliable source at CNN. Here were 2 of our intellectual heavyweights. This clash of the mental titans going at it on CNN last night.
We're going to have to blow up the entire system. And you know what we're going to have to do?
No, I don't know.
You know what we're going to? Yes,
Yeah.
what you have to do?
You just got to vote.
Honestly, from what your closing argument is, you're going to have to get rid of the Electoral College. Because the people...
I don't see it.
Because the minority in this country decides who the judges are and they decide who the president is.
But you need a constitutional amendment to do that.
And if Joe Biden wins, Democrats can sack the courts and they can do that amendment and they can get it passed.
Well, you need 2/3 vote in the Congress and 3/4 of the state legislatures.
They may be able to do that.
And by the way, it is not just Don Lemon who doesn't understand how the Electoral College works or how if he thinks they can simply by constitutional amendment get the Electoral College abolished, good luck with that. Seriously, good luck. That is not how that process is going to end up working. Reza Aslan, meanwhile, is tweeting. He tweeted immediately. He's a commentator for CNN, of course. Really good guy, Reza Aslan. So he tweeted out earlier this week that it was time to burn it all down. And he reiterated that yesterday, quote, "Been a few days since I tweeted that if GOP try to jam a SCOTUS through before election, we burn the effing thing down. And since the death threats and Breitbart headlines about my tweet have now stopped, let me just say that if GOP tried to jam SCOTUS through, we burn the effing thing down." But here's the thing. Democrats are always in favor of burning the effing thing down unless they get what they want. Right? That is the goal here. Now, what's crazy about this is that let's say that they burn the effing thing down. Let's say they burn it down. Let's say they make all these institutional changes. Let's say that they get rid of the filibuster. Let's say they get rid of the Electoral College. Let's say that they add states via 51 vote majority in the Senate. Let's say that they pack the court. Don't you believe that'll dissolve the country? Democrats have to know this, or they don't care, or they believe that their majoritarian tyranny will simply hold. If you're a state, do you think that you are going to listen to a law made by a process that you did not approve of at any stage? That simply adding states willy-nilly through a simple majority vote in the Senate and making a permanent Democratic majority on that basis? You think the minority states are just going to stick around for that? And then when you pass something unconstitutional and a packed, rigged Supreme Court greenlights it, you think they're just going to sit around for that? The answer, of course, is no. See, for Democrats, when they say burn it all down, what they mean is we wish to run this thing with an iron hand from above. Now, this is a problem for Joe Biden, as I mentioned yesterday, because Joe Biden's entire pitch is, I am a doddering old man who is not going to bother you very much. And now the Democratic Party pitch is, we are going to burn the whole thing down. You see how these two messages are somewhat in conflict. But Joe Biden does not have the strength of character, or the strength of mind, frankly, to simply say, we're not going to do any of that stuff. See, Joe Biden could still win in a walk. All he would have to say is, it is immoral for the Republicans to try to push through a justice. They're hypocrites, blah, 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 right? He can do the same routine that Chuck Schumer did. But American government is durable. The constitutional system is valuable. And so we're not going to burn anything down. We're just going to win elections. That's all he has to say. He can't do it. He can't do it because the heart and soul of the Democratic Party is in favor of burning things down if they feel they can effectuate their power grab by burning things down. So he was asked specifically, Joe Biden was yesterday, about packing the court. He wouldn't rule it out. He wouldn't just say, no, we're not going to pack the court. Now, let's be real about this. If you look at the constituency of the Supreme Court right now, the Supreme Court ages right now, what you are looking at is Clarence Thomas is now 72 years old. Stephen Breyer is 82. John Roberts is 65. Alito is 70. Okay, so if Joe Biden were to win the presidency, there is a not insignificant shot that he would get to replace certainly Breyer, that he would also get to replace Clarence Thomas, who again is 72 years old, and that he might get to replace Samuel Alito, who will be 74 or 75 by the time that Joe Biden leaves office. And if he serves 2 terms, there's very little doubt that he would get to replace probably 3 of those justices, because that's the way this works, gang. Okay, that is the way that this works. There is turnover at the Supreme Court level. So he could just say, I'm not going to do any of this, but he won't do that because he's so afraid of his left wing. So should Americans really gamble that Joe Biden is going to stand up to the radicals in his caucus who wish to burn it all down? I don't see why he would. Really, I'm not seeing any evidence. Here's Joe Biden wavering on this. This is the easiest answer in the world. It's like, can you condemn Antifa for burning down cities? Just by name. And he'll be like, no. These are easy answers. Joe Biden is not a bulwark in favor of moderation. He is not.
I'm not going to answer that question because it will shift all the focus. That's what he wants. He never wants to talk about the issue at hand. He always tries to change the subject. But let's say I answer that question. then the whole debate's going to be, well, Biden said or didn't say. Biden said he would or wouldn't. That's going to, the discussion should be about why he is moving in a direction that's totally inconsistent with what the founders wanted.
Yeah, this is insane. It's not inconsistent with what the founders wanted to appoint a justice when you have a majority in the Senate and the presidency. The fact that he won't answer the question, that's not the distraction. That's not a distraction. That is the key question. Are you willing to burn it all down? And Joe Biden will not answer the question. If you wish to have a country that continues to work, the answer always has to be from all sides, no, I am not willing to burn it all down. Because if you are willing to burn it all down, we have a fundamental conflict that cannot be bridged by some sort of ham-handed deal.